buenos días a todos. Yo soy Fabián Ibarburu, presidente de la CFA Society Uruguay. Es un enorme placer que nos estén acompañando, algunos miembros que nos están acompañando, directores de la sociedad, pero sobre todo mucha gente que está convocada por Zonamerica y que trabaja en la región, o algunos que viven cerca, que le viene bien al lugar. Nosotros en la CFA Society Uruguay, es una organización sin fines de lucro, afiliada al CFA Institute. El CFA Institute tiene 160.000 miembros, nosotros somos 132, que es la que reúne a los CFA Charterholders en Uruguay. Nuestra misión en Uruguay como organización es promover la excelencia, la ética y el desarrollo profesional de la industria financiera y de los profesionales de la industria financiera. Para quienes no conocen la certificación CFA, y los invitamos a saber de ella, convertirse en un CFA Charterholder implica superar 3 exámenes de alta exigencia. Además, se requiere una sólida experiencia laboral y tener un compromiso permanente para actuar con integridad y en beneficio de nuestros inversores. No es solo una credencial académica, es una declaración de principio de cómo ejercer esta profesión. Este tipo de eventos que nosotros organizamos en la sociedad reflejan el propósito de crear espacios para aprendizaje, intercambio de ideas, reflexión y aportar en nuestra profesión. Queremos agradecer especialmente a ustedes por acompañarnos, a Zonamerica, que nos da estas instalaciones maravillosas. Esperamos estar más veces con ustedes con estas propuestas. Bueno, nos están acompañando los directores, justo están todos girando por ahí. Y, por supuesto, un agradecimiento a nuestros sponsors, que son unos cuantos: Schroeders, MIG, Sun Partners, InView, Bloomberg, y recientemente, que no está en el batch todavía, Brookfield Oaktree. Con ese respaldo nos hace posible hacer este tipo de eventos. Ahora tenemos a Meir Statman. Él es una de las figuras más reconocidas, ya vino por Uruguay, es una de las figuras más reconocidas a nivel mundial en el campo de las finanzas conductuales. Él es profesor de finanzas de la Glenn Klimek en la Universidad de Santa Clara, en California. Recibió su doctorado en la Universidad de Columbia, licenciatura en MBA en la Universidad Hebrea de Jerusalén. No lo voy a aburrir con una cantidad de membresías que él tiene, de premios que ha recibido, de libros que ha escrito, de artículos que lo refieren. Es una persona sumamente conocida en el mercado, en la academia, y ha sido nombrado una de las 25 personas más influyentes por Investment Advisor. Su vida personal es casi tan fascinante como su vida profesional. Créanme, tuvimos ayer un agradable encuentro con unas brasas y nos compartió cosas de su juventud, de su niñez, de su familia, que son fascinantes. Le agradecemos que venga. Ha dedicado su carrera a explorar cómo las emociones, los valores y las motivaciones humanas influyen en nuestras decisiones financieras. Su trabajo ha ayudado a transformar en forma que entendemos el comportamiento de los inversores. Hoy nos va a presentar su más reciente obra, que la vieron allá afuera, The Wealth of Well-Being. En inglés va a ser. Pero sí vamos a tener un espacio bastante... Vamos a dejar que él fluya y vamos a tener un espacio de preguntas y respuestas después, ¿no? No mientras, al final. Ahí nos invita a reflexionar sobre el verdadero significado de la riqueza, más allá de los números, y sobre cómo nuestras decisiones financieras pueden contribuir a una vida más plena y significativa, nuestra y de nuestros allegados. Así que le agradecemos a Meir, muchas gracias por venir, y el estrado es tuyo.
Thank you, Fabian, and good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to be with you. Now, when I watched it for the first time, I did not notice the change in color. I was just fascinated with how does he do that, the rest of it. So I can assure you, yeah, I'm not going to play it back, but it was blue at the beginning and it is green now. So I'm showing it to you to really say that you and I, we are normal people, not those rational or irrational ones. And our intelligence is normal human intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And that is good because, of course, we need artificial intelligence to help us in many ways. And what we have now is not so much a revolution, but just a continuation. So I drive now a Subaru car, and that car slows me down if I get too close to the cars in front of me, definitely if I get there at a high speed. The car before that I had for 30 years was a Toyota, and it did not have this feature, but if I was about to hit another car and I just slammed on the brake, it would pump for me because I, like everyone else, don't have the skill to pump as they told me many years ago in driver's ed. So they made it automatic. And so our eyes are not video cameras. Our brains are not computers. We are very efficient at how we use our brains. And our brains are still, in many tasks, in most tasks, better than artificial intelligence. But boy, artificial intelligence can really help. And I imagine that you use some, I use some. Even if you don't use it actively, you know that it provides you kind of a summary of, say, reviews on Amazon, that it helps physicians diagnose illnesses. Some of them are ones that are infrequent, but if you put in the symptoms, it will say, you know, try to check blood for this or that, and so on. It is a marvelous, marvelous thing how we combine the two kinds of intelligence, human and artificial. So this is about our System 1 and System 2, as you probably know them. System 1 is that quick, emotional, instinctive, that is really, really useful. So fear, okay? So those people, of course, naturally, as you or I would be in that situation, thinks, this floor is breaking down. I'm going to fall out of this elevator. And so you grab whatever you can, and then you kind of look at it again. And as you can see, I think on the face of that person on the left, that he kind of a few seconds now, he got that this is kind of a trick, you know, and he is relieved and say, hey, you know, you kind of fooled me, but that's okay, you know, that I know where I am. So, you know, sometimes you will hear, when you invest, take your emotions out of your investment. That's nonsense. One, you cannot do that, okay? God or evolution planted emotions in us for good reason, because fear is a very good and useful emotion. Of course, there's such a thing as too much fear, but fear, normal fear, is very useful, and it's useful in finance. You know, if somebody comes to you and says, I have an investment for you that is going to double your money with no risk every week. I hope that your fear is going to say, whoa, even before you say, no, that's logically impossible, and so on, there's going to be something in you that says stop right here. Kind of as you do when you pick up the phone and you find that it's a salesperson and you're quick to say, no, thank you, and you put down the phone. You see how intelligent we are? So here's this toddler. He's kind of thinking like a scientist, you know? He just discovered what shadows are. And he says, what is this thing? And so he tests it, you know? So if I raise my arms, will that person on the other side also raise his arms? And he just found out that it is indeed so. So again, you know, we have to appreciate our intelligence, our human intelligence, and we have to know its limits. And it is especially important for us to kind of recognize what we want, because many times we ascribe to mistakes, to errors, to cognitive errors, emotional errors, what is really reflecting what it is that we want. And I'll talk about it some more later on. So here's a question to you. Think of a ladder that has steps going from 0 to 10. 0 represents the worst life you can imagine for yourself. 10 is the best life. So think about it for yourself. Where do you stand? Are you at 6 or 7 or 8 or maybe even at 10? Okay? This is a question about well-being, about life well-being. And as you were thinking through that, it is not a matter of right now, you know, that you feel a bit cold or a bit warm, that you feel a bit interested or bored. It is kind of, you kind of look at it and say, inside very quickly, how are my finances? What's going on in my family? How about with friends? How about work? And all of the domains of life. And these are the domains of life well-being. So I distinguish financial well-being from life well-being. Financial well-being comes to us when we can manage our saving and spending today and in the future, you know, save enough for retirement, such that even if something suddenly comes, the stock market drops, or suddenly there is some kind of a disaster and a house gets even burned down, God forbid, we can manage. We probably have fire insurance and so on. Life well-being is much broader than that. As I already mentioned, life well-being has all the domains of life, and so it includes family and so on. And so we do need financial well-being to enjoy life well-being. You cannot support yourself and your family without financial well-being. It takes money. You cannot visit a doctor, go to a hospital without money. You cannot go to a university without paying tuition. That's money, and so on. And so we need financial well-being to enjoy life well-being. But in the end, it is life well-being that we seek. So here is a famous U-curve of life well-being over our ages. Okay, so So until really kind of a decade and a half ago, it had this U shape. So for young adults, begin at a high life well-being, as measured by that question that you just answered yourself, and it goes down until kind of middle age, 50s, and then it begins to go up. So I'm way beyond middle age, and I can testify that that is correct, at least in this case. Now, what has been happening in the last decade or two is that side of younger people has really collapsed. And so it looks more like a line that goes up. And so as you can see here, depression symptoms are high actually in very young age, and they decline over time, and life satisfaction goes up. And people are puzzling why this is so. And one possible reason has to do with gaps between our aspirations and our situation. So it kind of gets to the issue of what we want. We want to reach our aspirations. Now, when we are young, our aspirations are higher than our situations. And if you are like me, and I know you are, people who go to a university and work hard and to get the right grades and to learn as much as they can, and it can be really frustrating. You go into an exam, sometimes you don't really do very well, but you get yourself and you do it again, and you get a job, and you are at the bottom, and you work yourself up. So we suffer this low well-being early on, but the idea is that this way, with education, with income, with savings, and so on, we are going to enjoy higher life well-being early on. And that, of course, is my experience, and if so many of you, of course, are young, and so you can see that. I can remember myself wondering, will I ever finish my PhD? Will I get an academic position? Will I get tenure? That is nerve-wracking. But then, today I'm a full professor. I'm a chaired professor. I have tenure, which means that nobody can fire me even if they wanted to. They don't want to. They tell me that they like me. And so what happens is that as we get older, it is not that we have achieved all our aspirations, but we tempt down those aspirations, okay? So Monday morning, they're going to announce the Nobel Prize in economics. I'm going to sleep very well. I don't expect to get a call in the middle of the night. So, there are very few people who get a Nobel Prize. I'm doing just fine, and I'm happy with where I am and what I'm doing. You might have wanted to be a chief executive officer, and you are only a chief financial officer. That's not that bad. Your family life is going well. The kids are growing as you would like, and so what we do really is we tamp down our aspirations. We say, what we really wanted is to be exactly where we are and be happy with what I am. When you are young, being too happy with what you are and what you have is very a bad idea, because this means, so university kind of requires effort. I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to get some manual labor and so on. Well, you know that it is not wise. So you have to have You have to have aspiration. This is why kind of the typical interview question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So the idea is that you have to have kind of a goal. You know, right now you are a beginning engineer, but in 5 years you would like to be a team leader and perhaps be known as somebody who initiated this wonderful project or invented this project, and so on. So it really, you have to be ambitious. You know, that is about aspiration. But the role of ambition goes down as you age, where you can really sit on your laurels and decide that you have achieved just enough. So there are 3 parts to life well-being. One is that evaluative life well-being that is in this question about the ladder. It's called the Cantrell ladder of well-being, where you evaluate your entire life. But there's also experience well-being. And experience well-being is really that emotional well-being that generally is short-term. You know, that is, you feel frustrated right now, or happy or cold or whatever it is. But some of those emotions can be ones that stay for a long time. You know, that is, if you are poor, you really need that job that you have. Your car is one that breaks down often. You cannot afford to buy a good car. You know that if you don't get to work, you will lose that job. You know, that anxiety of I'm driving to work, will the car break down? Will it mean that I cannot get there on time, and with bad consequences? And then there is meaning, which is kind of on the high end, where you say, my life has meaning. I know why I am put on this earth. And it does not necessarily, again, mean lofty things. You know, I am here to be a good father. I'm here to be a good husband. I'm here to be a good professor, to be a good teacher to my students, to be a good scholar. My life has meaning, and that really is part of the well-being that I have. So when I'm asked about myself, I say I'm a father, I am a husband, I am a professor. You know, that is really an important part of who I am. So life well-being has domains, and it has domains that you, of course, all know. And so it is about finances, of course, but also family, marriage, children, grandchildren, pets. For some people, pets are the equivalent of children. I don't like pets, okay? But my 2 daughters have cats. You know, what can I do? That is, sometimes I see people sitting next to me on an airplane carrying some basket with a dog in it. And I was thinking, yeah, I would find it pretty bizarre, if not worse. But, you know, I say, hey, Meir, think about children. Imagine that this were a baby rather than a dog. Wouldn't you smile at that baby? Would you not kind of be playful with that baby? Sure, I would. But for some people, that is what they are. And if you read my book, which I hope you do, and it is both in English and in Spanish, forgive me for that advertisement, you will see that there's a section there about pets. So I read a lot of stuff from many areas, including stories that you'll find just in newspapers. In the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Atlantic Magazine and so on, and from books by sociologists and so on, that bring those dry studies about well-being, which are well cited in the book, bring them to life, because academic studies tend to be detailed and kind of boring. Friends and community, you know, beyond beyond your close friends, helping the community, helping others, health, physical and mental, work and activities beyond work, in retirement, but even before that, hobbies and so on, education, values, religion, spirituality. And so, you have many people say what is most important to me is to know that Jesus loves me, that is central in my life. And sometimes people will mention that even before they mention family as a source of well-being. And society, in the United States, of course, with the president that we have, half the country has high life well-being and half has low life well-being. And I will not tip my hand and tell you which one I am, but I'm not happy with it. So when people are asked what really brings you happiness, what enhances your well-being, the first thing that people are likely to mention is family, not money, definitely as the thing. And within family, there are issues that have to do with parents and children, and before parents, courting, dating and marriage, divorce and widowhood, adult children, grandparents, siblings, and pets. Sometimes, many times, I hope for everyone, those stories are happy stories, but sometimes they are not, There are divorces, there are early widowhood, there are grandparents who are estranged with their grandchildren because they are estranged from their parents, and so on. So these are stories of life, and as I read them and as I repeated them in my book, many of those really touched me. As a person, I could see myself in that situation where a grandma says, I have not seen my granddaughter in years. She is 12 now. I have been writing letters to her that I cannot send, but I hope that someday her parents would let me see her, and that child can read the letters that I've written to know that I've been thinking about her throughout all those years. These are stories that these might not be your stories, likely not, but and they're not mine, but surely just a human person is resonating to these. So the domain of finance, as I mentioned before, is really central. You really need money for everything. And so, when people say money is not important in life well-being, or sometimes people say money is the only thing that is important, neither of them is true. That is, again, you need money as a foundation.
Love is a matter of difference between you and me. Love is a matter of distance, but you are too far away. Love is a matter of growing and knowing true feelings. Love is a matter of showing that you. When my heart is hoping, my mind is hoping to find, I can let you
Yeah, you need money. You need money if you want to have a nice pool rather than go to some dreary hotel by the beach. Love is a wonderful thing, but it's not enough. So when I think about life well-being, I think about portfolios. The portfolios are coming natural to me. I'm a finance person, and you are. And in the same way that we have a portfolio that has stocks of Apples, Google, and maybe General Motors, you have portfolios, and you have real estate, and you have bonds, and you have all of those other elements. In the same way that in the life well-being portfolio, you have finances, but family, and so on, the entire list of things. And the point is that in an investment portfolio, the reason we diversify is because we don't really know the future. And so we are not going to have all winners in our portfolio. But we hope that we are going to have enough winners and substantially enough to cover for the losers so that the overall is going to be fine. Now, clients will come and say, why did you invest in this? Wasn't it clear that it would be a dog? Well, it was not clear in foresight. Yeah, now it is clear in hindsight, and you think that it should have been clear in foresight, but it is not, okay? It is not only I that has hindsight bias. So people construct their well-being portfolio in different ways, kind of like allocating to stocks. How much shall I put into US stocks, Uruguayan stocks, and so on. You have to have finances as the foundation of it. But it's not like a pyramid where, sometimes you will read people say, the most satisfying thing in life is marriage, or children, or work, or whatever it is. It really varies among people. So here, I described it by the size of the font. For that particular person, it is marriage, children, work matters, health matters, pets don't matter much. For another person, it is work that is central to their lives, and friends, they're quite happy not being married, not having kids, and so on. Some years ago, I was speaking to an audience of financial advisors. I was speaking about saving and spending, and about financial well-being, and about life well-being. And after I was done and I stepped off the stage, a number of advisors came to me and they told me how dangerous it is to give adult children money without expecting or without asking or demanding that they pay it back. They told me stories about widows that as soon as they became widowed, they went and spent money on whatever, on a horse or a sports car, or went on a fancy vacation, and how foolish this is, and so on. One woman, an advisor, stood aside and waited for the others to leave. And when they left, she came to me and she said, I started crying when you said it is better to give with a warm hand than a cold one. And indeed, she really, I could see that she was indeed crying. So the story was that she lent her son some $27,000 for his academic studies. And now that he graduated, she demanded that he pay by the agreed upon schedule. Her reasoning was that this way he will learn financial responsibility. Okay, you promised, you have to deliver. But the young man was broke. Okay, she said that he does not even have money to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring. And you can imagine what it did to their relationship. So I hope, I have not spoken with her afterwards, but I hope that she went home and she said, son, this money is yours. I actually don't need it for my retirement or financial security. I have plenty. This really is when you need that money, and it is yours, and it is going to take a burden off you and let you present that ring to your girlfriend and make her your fiancée, and take it from there. So I was thinking about that woman, and I was thinking about myself as I listened to her. And you can see that this is a case where you can actually enhance well-being by moving resources from one domain to another. That is, of course, by forgiving that loan, that woman is going to detract from her financial well-being. Now she has less wealth, but in the family domain, surely she's going to gain a whole lot more than she has lost in the money domain, such that her overall life well-being is going to go from low as in on the left to higher on the right. This is me in 1969. I was 22, standing next to Nava, my 21-year-old bride. So a few months before our wedding, my parents drove up to meet Nava's parents. We had dinner together, and after dinner, Nava and I were excused to go for a walk, and our parents sat down to business. Business meant deciding how much each pair of parents is going to give to the young couple to get them going on life, to have enough money, at least to pay a portion of the down payment that is necessary for an apartment. And you know, I had money from I had a loan from the Hebrew University that is supposedly for my studies. I actually had enough money for that, but that went to the down payment and so on. So we had other things, and we cobbled together things as young people do to have enough to begin our lives. And you know, my parents were Holocaust survivors. They were very far from wealthy. Nava's parents had even less. But later on, many years later, I learned that Nava's mom told to her father, whatever Meir's parents offer, we will match. They borrowed some of the money from relatives and paid that later. Now, you know, I'm not presenting those two as kind of saying, here is wrong and here is right. I'm just saying, it is nice to know that there is more than one culture and more than one way of doing things. You can just think about them and see which one is right for you. And of course, it depends on many things. It depends on the financial situation of parents. Say they likely have more than one child. They have to think about their own retirement and their financial needs. So as I was contemplating coming to the United States from a PhD and worrying, of course, about whether I am going to have enough money, I went to my father and asked if I could have a loan. And he said, look, Meir, I would have loved to give you a loan, but you have a younger brother and sister, and they will want to get married, and we would like to help them as we helped you. I just don't have more than that. It was very disappointing. Eventually, obviously, things worked out. We lived reasonably well as students in New York, as both of us studied at Columbia. So those of you who are financial advisors, those of you who work with clients, you know, when I speak to financial advisors, I say, you are not wealth manager. You are not a wealth advisor. You are a well-being advisor. And most advisors already do that. You know, it's not like I'm just discovering, telling them, you better be well-being advisors, not just financial advisors. But they still define themselves as financial advisors. And some have difficulty just moving from kind of across that boundary between money and life. I think that just having, to me, you know, finding ways to cross that boundary is really important, and finding ways to deepen conversations. And if you think about that, you know, AI is going to make increasingly difficult to compete on building portfolios, taxes, estate plans, and so on. I'm an advisor to a robo-advisor, Wealthfront. They do everything. They don't contract with flesh and blood advisors. They do more and more using artificial intelligence. What can be done by artificial intelligence will be done by artificial intelligence. Your pie chart is no better than their pie chart of their portfolio. What binds you to your clients is that emotion, it's that sense that you are their financial physician, which is the other analog that I use to illustrate this. That we expect, of course, physicians to be at the frontier of knowledge of medicine, but also to have good bedside manner, to also listen, to also understand. They say good physicians treat illnesses, great physicians treat patients. That applies to financial advisors as well. So great financial advisors manage both investments and investors. And we all know that managing investors is actually more difficult than managing investments. So it is important to ask what goes on in your life, to listen, truly listen, empathizing with their clients, even if you don't share their values, their wants. Identify what is it that they want, where does it really hurt. One advisor years ago told me about a couple who came to him as prospects, and they said, before you start planning anything for us, you should know that we have a disabled son, and we have to plan for him so he is supported long after we are gone. So here is a case of clients who come and say, hey, here is the thing that matters to us in life well-being beyond our plan for our own retirement. Many times clients will not say that because they see advisors as financial advisors, okay? We'll talk about the Federal Reserve, we'll talk about about monetary policy. We'll talk about maybe estate plans, but not about family. Diagnose, educate, and treat. And tell you about what I call the third generation of behavioral finance and how we got there. So people ask, what is on the frontier of finance, of behavioral finance? Is it AI? Is it ESG? What is it? I say that the image of a frontier is wrong. We have to look at it as a circle, an expanding circle. And that is what I am doing in my work. I try to expand that circle of finance. People say, oh, well, that's interesting, but that's marketing, okay? That is interesting, but that is sociology. I say you give up those important things too fast. These are part of finance, and you have to teach them. And so when I teach my investment class, I teach them invariance portfolio theory, but also teach them behavioral portfolio theory. I teach about the market efficiency in both standard and behavioral forms. Oops, I'm sorry. So in standard finance, we were rational. Rational people just want to maximize their wealth. They are not confused by anything. They don't commit cognitive or emotional errors. In the first generation of behavioral finance, and I was part of it, really starting in the very beginning of the 1980s, we called people irrational because we said, look at that, they trade too much and they waste their money. They are reluctant to realize their losses. They make distinction between what is capital and what is income, and so on. In the second generation of behavioral finance, I said, enough of that rational and irrational. That is, we are, if rational means never making mistakes, I'm not rational. But you would hardly call me irrational. I'm not a crazy person. I am normal. It is someplace in between, and we strive for utilitarian benefit, but also for expressive and emotional benefits. That if you say that to somebody in marketing, they say, "What's new about that?" Of course we know that. Well, for people in finance, it seems to be new. They think that's money. It's about maximizing money. But what is money for? That's for marketing people. No, it's not. It is for finance people. And in the third generation, I said, yes, we look for utilitarian, expressive, and emotional benefits, but we want really life well-being beyond financial well-being. That is expanding the circle further. So how do I know that you are normal? I can ask you those questions, If you want to avoid poverty, sure. Some prospects for riches, sure. Nurturing kids, sure. And so on. We are all normal. Do we commit cognitive and emotional errors sometimes? Sure. Hindsight errors, where it seems like when something happened, that is just bound to happen. Do you know what regret is? Have you ever experienced that pain? Oops. Oh. See, that is artificial intelligence. You press it, first it does not respond, then it responds too fast. So in standard finance in the 1960s, I call it was anorexic. That is, it was scientific, no more intuition, no more stories, but it was really narrow and unrealistic. Investors were rational according to that theory, and that is what I learned a school at the Hebrew University. So rational investors, really defined by Miller Modigliani very well, as rational investors seek to maximize their wealth. That kind of seems to make sense. And they are immune to cognitive and emotional errors. So for example, this famous theory about dividends and why dividends don't matter. If somebody does not get a dividend in cash from the company, they can create homemade dividend by selling a number of shares equal to the dividend that they would have otherwise received. But then the question is, why is it that people pay attention to dividends, and why is it that they think about it as being distinct from capital? So in the first generations, we said, yes, people are still trying to maximize their wealth. That is really their goal, but they make mistakes. So they trade, for example, too much, diminishing their wealth rather than enhancing it, because they are just not sure. And here's a quick story. I was a student, as I just told you, in the late 60s at the Hebrew University. Amos Tversky and Danny Kahneman were at the Hebrew University as well. The building that housed the economics faculty was right here, and the psychology building was right next to it. And I would go from time to time to the psychology building to participate in experiments, to earn some pocket money and have some fun. But I had no idea who Kahneman and Tversky were. None of my teachers mentioned their names. I could see that there is something there that is at least missing from the economics and finance that I learned, but I didn't really know how to integrate them. Only later I learned to do that. These are Amos Tversky on the left and Danny Kahneman on the right. So the second generation that I talked about since the 1999 and expressed in earlier books, including one that is available for free download from the CFA Institute, Behavioral Finance, the second generation, where I talked about investors as being rational, being normal, sorry. And so if you look at that, you can see a house. A house, of course, has utilitarian benefits, a shelter. But it also has expressive and emotional benefits. We kind of judge ourselves, and others judge us somewhat, at least by where we live. Is it a mansion? Is it a small house in a poor neighborhood? How does it make you feel? The feeling that you get as being a renter is different from what you get as being an owner. Think about socially responsible investing. Again, you cannot really understand socially responsible investing unless you understand that people get out of their investment more than money, that they want to be true to their values. So in the third generation, I say people are normal, but we seek more than utilitarian, expressive, and emotional well-being benefits. We seek high life well-being. And here's my book again. I am very, very forceful in advertising it, as you can see. Thank you all very much.
Pero me gustaría abrir un espacio de preguntas. Pepe, ¿tenés alguna?
Yeah, I look like I understand Spanish, but I don't.
No, thank you for the presentation. Really, really good, and it's really tough for all of us that are in finance to try and figure that out. But at the end, as you mentioned, all this AI technology, everybody is like scared in some way of how AI will replace us. and also, but then you mentioned that point that at the end the client is looking for something extra apart from that. So how did you manage to get to all these thoughts into these several books that you have published, or how was your chain of thoughts maybe, or how you figured out everything?
Yeah, so, I actually went into economics rather than say accounting, because I thought that it's going to talk about people, about normal people. I mean, I was very curious about my own behavior, the behavior of friends. Everybody is, you grow up, you're trying to figure out what reward, what behavior, say, is attractive to girls and what is not, and so on. But I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in the studies that I had in economics, statistics, and finance. And so that was with me from the beginning. How do you integrate that? You integrate it, I suppose, in a natural way. That is, I know that is the third generation of finance does not obliterate the second and the first and standard finance. That is, if you look at option pricing, it is still based on arbitrage rules. There are still important things to learn from mean variance portfolio theory, but if you can expand it, then you get closer to reality and make it more applicable. So I have been very fortunate to not just know Harry Markowitz, but also have him as my friend and also have him as a co-author. And so we wrote an article together that combines elements of mean variance and behavioral portfolio theory, that is where people keep their monies in separate pockets. That is, there's money for retirement, there's money for the kids, there's money for some, a bigger house or whatever we want. And we have different goals and different attitudes towards risks in that. Because Harry Markowitz really understood people, okay? He knew his math and statistics as much as anybody, but he knew people, and he did not think that he can dismiss people. And so the way we do that is really the way you form friendship. If you think about the difference between an acquaintance and a friend and a close friend, what a friend and a close friend know is something personal about you that an acquaintance does not. That you have, a disabled child, or that marriage is not going just right, or the work is kind of boring and you would really like to move to another career, maybe. And how do you do that? You know how to do it. It is kind of hard often, but it kind of like dating. You put your hand on top of hers at the restaurant. Does she pull it away fast, or does she rest it and gives you permission to go a bit further? The same applies here. If you disclose something about your life that is, say, painful and so on, you get a reaction that, well, that's your problem, but I really don't want to get personal in that. Or do you get a story that perhaps they don't have a disabled child, but something else that is not quite right, or they know relatives or friends who have a similar problem and so on. And so they open a way to kind of cross and speak about things that are really meaningful in life. And that I encourage all of you to do. I have, as it happens, I have, our older daughter is disabled. She lives with a bipolar illness, a mental illness. And when I mention it to people, the reaction is not, whoa, that I don't want to listen to that. Usually they'll tell me about somebody else they know who has who has a disabled child. It can be physical, it can be mental, or they'll tell me something else about their life that is kind of personal, and that brings us closer together. And I saw that in many conversations where acquaintances, professional acquaintances, became personal friends by me knowing something about their life beyond the superficial, beyond their professional side, and they know something about my life. Other questions and comments? Yeah, comments as well, experiences.
Hello, Professor. Thank you again for your presentation. It was very insightful. And we acknowledge that we see many concepts and situations in our practice with clients. So thank you again. My question will be, how do you see the fourth generation of behavioral finance?
Yeah, I was, I've been asked this question before, and I don't really see necessarily a fourth generation because the third generation is already kind of encompassing the entire world. But I think that there are still areas where we can contribute to clarify things. So I wrote an article that is coming out in the Financial Analyst Journal. So that's your journal, okay? And it is called Separating a Positive Impact from Warm Glow. So warm glow is about doing things that are for us, like being true to our values. Whatever it is, whether it is no abortion drugs or no fossil fuel in our portfolio. Doing good is actually doing good. That is diminishing emissions, or if you are pro-life and so on, people might disagree as to what good is, what a positive impact is. But I respect people who have those views, and they follow those views, and they think that they're doing good for others by being pro-life and opposing abortion and so on. So now I'm writing something that might be a short book about this subject. And as you will see in this article, I say, how is it that we got ourselves off to this thing where we think about ESG or sustainability as a thing where you can do both? Both feel good about yourself and get profits that are higher than normal profits. And I say this is nonsense. You and I, we are investment professionals, we are professors. We should help people who don't know as much to learn more. So sometime last year, September of last year, I wrote an article that was published in the Wall Street Journal, when students at Columbia and other places were demonstrating and they demanded that their endowment divest themselves of stocks that possibly help Israel in the war in Gaza. I said, look at them. These are intelligent students, okay? So how is it that they don't understand that when you sell your shares in, say, Lockheed, because they make missiles that Israel is using, that are not really doing any good because somebody else is buying those shares? It's not like a mutual fund where you send a request for money and they send you that money from the fund, and if many people do that, then the fund just shrinks. Here you just sell it, and you sell it to somebody who actually, supports Israel in the war, and so people just don't understand it. Well, it is our role to educate them. What does it mean for the kinds of mutual funds that you have? What does it mean for rating agencies? What does it mean for educators, of course? And so on. So all of those aspects. So there is a lot there's a lot that we all can do in expanding that circle, not so much having a fourth generation, but really filling in things. And you know, we can fill in many things. If you have a better option pricing model, sure, you know, just introduce it and let us benefit. And if you have some insights that have to do with how it is that that you correct misperceptions and so on. A former student of mine from years ago wrote to me just the other day, and he said that whenever he feels like trading, he takes out the slide that I gave them of the asset allocation in my portfolio that is all composed of index funds, and that calms him down. So here it is. I did some good for somebody, you know, and let his wealth actually grow, and perhaps his well-being as well.
Can you share that allocation?
Sorry?
Can you share that allocation portfolio?
Yeah. So as I said, I invest only in index fund. Mine are mostly with Vanguard, but there's nothing, you know, nothing special about that. Now they all have reduced their expense ratios, their fees, quite a lot. And so I have international fund, and they might even have some Uruguayan stocks. I don't really look inside it. That makes up maybe 20 or 25% of the equities. The rest are kind of in the total stock market portfolio. There are some things that I have that are kind of have to do with the history. That is, if I sell them, then I'll have to pay capital gains tax, and I don't want to do that. So I balance it some other way, and that's it. You know, I have a money market fund that I use kind of like a checking account, and that is. Do I know the names of the stocks in the S&P 500? No, I don't. You know, I don't have. I have a total stock market, so it's broader than that. So some people say, how can you invest in something where you don't even know the names? I can. See, I can. You know, you can do some things. I drive my car, and boy, if it breaks down, I don't know how to fix it. Okay, but I still know the position of the accelerator and the brake, and that is generally just fine. And I have a membership in AAA that is going to tow my car if it breaks down to somebody who knows how to fix it. Other comments or questions or stories? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Statman, for coming here to speak with us. The question I wanted to ask you is, have you given thought to this transition of the financial advisor to a well-being advisor, how that should look in practice, and also how we should measure the well-being of our clients as we do with their financial balance sheet, like their well-being balance sheet?
You know, so you want something that is more precise, perhaps, than I think. That is, when you think about friendship, you don't put it kind of on a spreadsheet. You know, you just know this man, this woman is a friend, and I can if I need some help with something, I can have that. You know, men have more difficulty with friendship, for example, and so you have a question. You know, if you go to have a colonoscopy, then they don't want you to drive home after that. They want you to have, and they don't want you to order Uber or a taxi. You have to have somebody who comes and picks you up. And then some men say, you know what, I don't even have anyone I can call and say, hey, can you pick me up after a colonoscopy? Okay, so sometimes it just involves just asking, you know, would you? And most people actually say yes. And so how do you become a well-being advisor? I think that you have to kind of break the ice. And if I might have another push for my book, forgive me. I think that sharing my book with clients is one tool, because in that, for example, I tell the story that I just told you about giving with a warm hand or not, and you can then ask your clients, what do you think? Here are kind of two things, and they will tell you. It might be. They will tell you their situation. You're going to find suddenly about them more than about their values. They might say things like, "I worked really hard for that money, and I worked through my college studies and so on. I don't think that it's wise to give money to kids when they are very young," or they could say, kind of like that woman who approached me after my talk, and maybe there's a better way. There are many of those stories, and you can ask questions like, which of them resonated with? Where is it that you saw yourself, and where is it that you saw other people? And there are people in other cultures. So some of the materials come from interviews that were done when I was doing a consulting project for BlackRock, and they did kind of like focus groups in the US, UK, China, and Mexico. Fascinating. Okay, so I bring the stories that people told. Different cultures have different notions of what the status good is. India, big wedding. Okay, the UK, are you Meir Statman, or are you Sir Meir Statman, or Lord Meir Statman? So it is really interesting, and I get it from my students who come from many countries, and when I ask them questions about things that have to do with, say, status and so on, they will tell me things. What do you learn? How to save and spend and so on. What did you learn from your parents and from others? You can just find out what kind of resonates with them, that they object to, and so on. And from that you can go on. So suddenly you have already crossed the boundary, and now it is a question of having the conversation in a way that is comfortable for both of you. Other?
Hi, thank you for your time. So it seems clear to me that right now that there is a positive correlation between wealth and well-being. But obviously, when it comes to wealth, you have diminishing marginal utility. Is there a figure when you can say, hey, I have enough, or is there a threshold, or is it just depend on the people, on their lives and what they value? Thanks.
Thank you. So if I might, you'll tell me if I'm right. You are asking, what is enough? When is it that we have enough? And that really is kind of coming back to the utilitarian, expressive, and emotional. So if you're an advisor, for example, you can, a client say, is not sure if she has enough money to sustain her at the standard of living she wants through her life. Well, you can do a spreadsheet, and you can do this that under say pessimistic conditions of what the markets are going to do and so on, you can show her that she will have enough. Now, for some people, enough really is way more than what is enough for me, or that woman that I kind of described. They have $2 billion, way more than they need for even if they buy a house here and a house there and so on. but they want more, okay? Because Joe has $3 billion and they are competing, so they want the expressive benefit of high social status and the emotion of having more than somebody else who perhaps put them down because they are kind of relatively poor. Now, the difficulty advisors have are with clients who objectively have more than enough, but who don't feel that way. Maybe because they grew up poor, maybe because of other things. And so one advisor, for example, told me about a woman who had she was in her 80s, okay? She had a $2 million portfolio of securities, and she had some rental places. But she insisted on spending only the dividends from that portfolio and that net rent. And she could have lived much better. And so she said that she's afraid that she's going to run out of money. She's 85, you know. I'm not saying, hey, my friend, how long do you think you're going to live? Yeah, I don't think that you would want to ask this question, but I think that people who are 85 know that they're not going to be 15 again. And so that financial, so she said, you know, she doesn't want to order Uber because it costs money. She doesn't want to get a new coat because it costs money. She does not want to go to a museum because there are entrance fees and she does not know if she can afford that. So eventually he persuaded her to spend a few $100s more each month, and she said, you know, that she had manicure for the first time since she was 30. Okay, so you see, some people just when did I decide that I have enough money? You know, one kind of measure in my mind was estate taxes in the United States. So right now in the federal estate taxes, if you're a couple, you have $30 million exemption. And after that, there is tax on estates. And I'm kind of looking at myself and I say, boy, I don't know how those index funds, if I continue like that, I'm going to pay estate taxes. I'd rather not. And so my wife and I established an endowment at Santa Clara University, and we put $3 million in it. And it is supporting, in small ways, supporting the work of my colleagues in the Department of Finance. So you know, I think that somebody, if I did not get it myself, somebody would say, hey, Meir, you know, you have so much money that if you don't spend it, you're going to have to give it to the government. Is that what you want? And so you get there. So you just have to speak with people. Some of them are just going to say, I don't know. I just feel that I'll take it with me to the grave. And want to be the richest man in the cemetery? Go ahead. These discussions really are discussions that are not one that you say, here are the facts. You know, you really have to listen and find ways to help them get to a place that is right for them. Here's another quick story. So a student of mine last quarter said, you know, I learned a whole lot in your course, but it does not answer a specific question that I have. So I asked, you know, this course is online, but so we had a Zoom, and I asked, tell me more. So it turns out that he moved to the Bay Area, to Silicon Valley, where Santa Clara is, He had a job in the Navy. You know, he had some savings, but not a whole lot. He has a job that pays, but not a whole lot. Rents in our area are very expensive. Buying a house is just really, really hard because houses, you know, the median house is more than $1 million. So what he said is, I have those savings. I've given up on buying a house in Silicon Valley, but I would like to buy one where I came from Wisconsin or upstate New York, where it is much, much cheaper, but I don't even have money for that. My money now is in a savings account earning 4%. I have a feeling that I can have, without risk, double or triple that. Can you show me how? Okay, so, well, there's no way to do that, you know. You can invest it in index fund, and you will not get triple your money. You can invest in gold, maybe. You can invest in Bitcoin, maybe. But then the chances of losing are also very good. So I kind of turned it and said, look, you are taking an MBA program now. This is going to open doors for you on the career side, for jobs that are not available for you now. You know, maybe that is a wiser way to gather those funds than putting it in one of those very risky investments and not having that. Indeed, this, you know, the most important risk, the most rewarding risk that you can do at your ages is really career risk. That is, ask yourself, am I in the profession that is really right for me? And then if you say to that no, look around and make changes that are drastic. This is what I did when I came to the United States.
And become a charter holder.
Sorry?
And become a charter holder.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Remember, for those of you that are not yet into CFA, come and speak with us.
Yeah,
we'd like you to be members.
That definitely is, and I tell that to my students as well. It is a credential that really helps a lot in kind of opening doors and getting perhaps to, you know, there are parts of finance that are more interesting or more fitting for you, and some less. It is one that you can do. I can see that some people are kind of putting stuff in their bags and so on. I think that it is time for me to say thank you all. It is wonderful to be with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Muchas gracias a todos. Nos vemos.